Hey everyone, and welcome to a special new segment that we've started. We're going to be doing every Friday night. This is called the Wrestling Roundtable. This specific edition of Wrestling Roundtable is what'd you call it, Chad? The markout?
The markout sessions.
Yeah, the markout sessions. So what we're going to be doing in this. Like I've said earlier in the past few times I mentioned this show, the Wrestling Roundtable is going to be a little bit different every week. We'll talk about documentaries, we'll talk about theories, we'll talk about a lot of different stuff. But with our first episode, we wanted to make sure that our followers, and dare I say fans, if we do actually have fans, if we do, God bless you. We are, for our first episode, let you into our lives and our world. We're going to talk about who our favorite wrestlers are, what our favorite matches are, how we fell in love with pro wrestling, just a bunch of different stuff so you can get to know us, even some personal crazy stories like me almost getting the gun pulled on me. We'll go over that more in detail later. And we're definitely opening the comments up for you guys to also share your experiences. And we'll bring it up on the screen. We'll talk about it. Hopefully it's going to be a good time. This is going to be one of the loosest shows that we'll have during the week. It's not really scripted. Like, we do pick some topics to talk about. But other than that, it's just something a little intimate to get to know each other, to just reach out with the audience and have y'all reach out with us. So before we get started, and before I forget for like the 100th time, as the sign says, we're gonna crack open a cold beverage. Doesn't matter what kind. If you want to crack one with us at home, in honor of Stone Cold Steve Austin as usual. Let's crack those cans open and give everyone a hell yeah. So, and my top working. Hell yeah.
Now for my
It's actually not bad. PC Snowberry with 0% juice.
Drew's over there being a proper Irishman.
All right. You're like Donald Trump cutting friggin'. Oh wait, it's an adult beverage. I thought you were pouring like your Coke into a glass. I was like, you're Donald Trump eating KFC with a fork and a knife.
He's getting his Conor McGregor
on. All right. So, first question I have for everybody: who is your 5 people of your Mount Rushmore of wrestling, past, current? It doesn't have to be the typical answer of who built wrestling, who carried wrestling, because obviously that's all the same answers: Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, things like that. But who is just your personal, unbiased, or actually biased, I should say?
Yeah.
Mount Rushmore. Mine would be obviously Stone Cold, Rock, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, and it's a tie for my final one, but I'm gonna have to say the Undertaker, because he was in this business for so long and so reliable. So that's my Mount Rushmore. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Chad. All right, I'll go. I kind of have some of the same ones. Definitely Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker. I always like Macho Man. He was always one of my favorites, just because of just his promos and all that. And Another guy I really liked was I always liked Sting. He was always one of my favorites. So
Yeah.
Which one, Surfer Sting or the Crow Sting?
I like both of them.
Yeah,
Really? I prefer Crow Sting.
I'm just gonna say Sting in general.
I grew up on Surfer Sting.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
Why why Macho Man?
Like I said, I loved his promos. Just his craziness he had about him. Yeah, he was just exciting.
Crazy story before Chad goes. Crazy story about Macho Man, if you don't know. Macho was a very paranoid wrestler. He always had to have everything scripted 100%. He left no room for improvisation. So there's one match where he was wrestling Jake the Snake.
I've heard this story.
Yeah. For those of you that hadn't,
it's on
Macho,
story time on the WWE Network after he gets done telling this. Go watch Jake the Snake tell it. It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. He'll tell it a lot better than I do, but Macho refused to do the match without go ahead and choreographing and getting used to. If you guys don't know the match, Jake was supposed to tie Macho up in the ropes and take his snake out of the bag, and the snake was supposed to bite Macho Man. For real. So Macho wanted to practice it. And he was paranoid all the time because he was on cocaine and shit the entire time. So Macho was like, I'm not doing it, Jake, until the snake bites you first, so it's not poisonous.
It's gonna bite you first.
Right, yeah. But it's an anaconda, and if you guys know anything about anaconda,
no, it's a cobra.
Was it a cobra back then?
This was when Jake the Snake had the cobra.
But he did have like anaconda.
Python at one
point. Python.
He had a ball python.
Yeah,
he was carrying the cobra thing at this time.
Okay,
they're all poisonous to me. So
pythons are not, but yeah.
Yeah, they wrap around with pythons. Okay, anyway, so it was a cobra. I'm sorry, but the cobra was devenomized.
Yep.
But
it was defanged as well.
Oh, it was. Oh, yeah, so he got him with the side teeth, not with the actual fang. Okay, okay. Like I said, Jake will tell the story better than I will. So he's got Macho in the anyway. Before they went out, Macho was like in his macho voice, "Yo, brother, I'm not getting bit by that snake unless you get bit first. I'm gonna make sure that it's not poison.
I want you to prove it to me."
Yeah, prove it to me. So Jake obviously always smoking a cigarette in the back. He was like, he put a cigarette out, took the snake out, let the snake bite him. They waited for a few minutes, and Jake was
said,
like,
"Don't go nowhere. Don't take no pills.
Yeah,
venom gets you."
Right. So obviously it didn't do anything to Jake. So Macho agreed. So they ended up doing the gimmick in the ring. He had Macho tied up. They had kind of pissed the snake off a little bit before on accident.
Jake said he made me bite. He made me get bit. So he said I smacked the snake around a little bit to piss him off. He said I was getting him back. He was getting that receipt back on Macho Man.
Yeah, and as you guys know, we do talk wrestling lingo. So for those of you that don't know, a receipt is when you've been hit on purpose enough to where you're tired of it and you've warned the guy, yo, back off. When they're working stiff, which means they're actually tagging you. When you're done with it, you give them what's called a receipt. So you give them their change back for the dollar bills they've been hitting you with. So Jake got his receipt that night by pissing off the snake. And when Macho was tied up in the ropes, Jake let the snake go on Macho Man. And the snake, they had to pry the snake off of Macho Man.
He was chewing his forearm like hamburger meat.
And they zoomed in on it too. So you need to watch this for real, even on YouTube or whatever. But the snake was on Macho's arm, grinding back and forth and just going to town. And you could see blood just dripping out. And they had to pry that snake off of Jake. Anyway, that's my story off of, since Drew mentioned Jake the Snake. I was also watch his Hall of Fame speech, because I was at WrestleMania 30 when they inducted Jake. And he told some crazy ass stories in that thing too. But anyway, Chad, what's your 5 Mount Rushmore?
Number 1, Ric Flair. I got to go with the Nature Boy.
Yeah.
2, I'm going to say Hogan, because he was massive when I first started watching wrestling. And do y'all remember going to like Captain Video and stuff like that, and they had the old wrestling tapes in that one section?
Oh yeah, I used to do that every weekend when I went over.
Every Friday night, I would go and get 4 or 5 pay-per-views and stay up all night and watch those. And this was back 94, 95, and I'm watching early 90s and 80s pay-per-views. So that's how I got into the Flair and Hogan. And then I got to go number 3 would be, I got to say Stone Cold, because he was another, I think, Flair for the 80s, Hogan for the early 90s, and then Stone Cold kind of took it for the late 90s, early 2000s.
He saved it. Him and DX and The Rock.
They saved. It wouldn't be WWE. They wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Stone Cold, The Rock, and DX.
It really took off when Stone Cold and Vince started feuding.
Yeah. So Flair, Hogan, Stone Cold, Undertaker, and I'm going to go Shawn Michaels, just because he was probably the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling.
See, that was great.
I've got so many honorable mentions. Like my very first honorable mention would be Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have a Ric Flair without a Dusty Rhodes. Those guys had such a
You wouldn't have to be honest, after Dusty retired in the ring, you wouldn't have a lot of people without Dusty Rhodes, because he worked in the back with people.
So many of the talent that we see today.
Yes.
And we wouldn't have an NXT without Dusty Rhodes.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have a Paige. You wouldn't have a Seth Rollins. You wouldn't have a Charlotte. You wouldn't have a Dean Ambrose / John Moxley. You wouldn't to the level that he's at now.
Yeah, Dusty mentored a lot.
But if you guys can get on the network and go to the section of the Rivals and watch Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair.
Oh God,
that was one of the best rivalries. That was one of the best rivalries of all time. And these guys were rivals outside of the ring too. Dusty would buy a Cadillac, and Rick would go buy a bigger one. Rick would go buy a $5,000 suit. Dusty would go buy 3 of them. You know,
the funny thing is that was Rick's character. So WWE footed the bill for all that. Dusty actually had to pay money. Hold on. But yeah, I'm with you on Shawn Michaels. That's why it was a tie for me between him and Undertaker. But Undertaker's did more longer. So
yeah.
Flair would definitely be like, he's right there for me too.
I mean, he was part of at least 2 of the greatest factions of all time, the 4 Horsemen and Evolution. But
and then look how many decades.
Yeah.
80s, 90s, 2000s, and now in the 2020s, he's in rap videos. He's got a pair of Adidas shoes.
That's true.
Yeah, Damian Lillard's got a pair of Adidas that are the Ric Flair drips. I mean, what guy has spanned that much over so many different things? Yeah. He's iconic. He's a part of pop culture. So
there's 2 wrestlers that are universally known where you don't even have to watch wrestling and people know who they are. Ric Flair, and because of his woo, and The Undertaker. Everyone knows those 2 people.
And I would say Hulk Hogan too.
That's true. We got a couple of comments.
Nobody that's ever watched wrestling, Hulk Hogan. Oh, that's the guy that does you know.
Exactly. So we got a couple of comments real quick before we move on. So Kelly Melvin, if you're still on, give me one more person. It's a Mount Rushmore of 5, but Kelly's got.
He said Demolition, so is that both Axe and Smash?
Yeah, that's true. Is it the whole?
Yeah.
Is
And
the
by
tag
the way,
team
shout
count?
out Kelly. That's one of my boys from work.
Oh, what's up, Kelly? I'm sorry you got work.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, you know
What's
Kelly.
up, Kelly?
He's a huge wrestling fan. He's got friends that work for AEW. They were on AEW Dark the other night wrestling. He knows a bunch of the guys from. Yeah, he knows a bunch
Well,
of the
hook
guys
us up
from
with
Clarksville.
interviews and stuff, bro.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. We're gonna get some guys hooked up. We gotta get Kelly on the show. We're gonna
Yeah, I was about to say we need to get Kelly on for sure.
Yeah, we'll get Kelly on. He'll have him stop by one night. He'll come to the crib and we'll get him on. But yeah, I've got some interviews coming down the pipe from Kelly and his boys up in Clarksville, like Crimson and all those guys, and a couple of guys off the girls that he had on AEW Dark. So shout out to Kelly.
Yeah, man. Hook us up, Kelly. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for commenting, too.
And Kelly, thank you for bringing up James Storm. He is one of the most underrated performers, wrestlers of all time. Just because he was on TNA,
a lot of people.
Yeah, he was on TNA, so nobody thinks that he's a big name. He was one of the greatest. He's got the best super kick. His super kick's better than Shawn Michaels.
And him and Chris Jericho came up together, too. So.
Yeah. And he's a Tennessee boy, so shout out to him.
And then you got Randy Savage, which was in Drew's list. Jake Roberts and Demolition. So
Demolition was one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Yep. So that's a very good list.
Good list, Kelly.
Tyler commented, you got Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, who both hated each other. Taker, obviously, and then Rock and Stone Cold. So that's a pretty decent list, too.
Ultimate Warrior was a garbage wrestler, good character.
Yeah.
Was,
I mean, but at the end of the day, if butts and seats, that's the big thing.
I mean, he could work a match. He barely knew a wrist lock from a wrist watch, but he had the look.
He had the gorilla press, and then he had the splash. That was all you needed.
So cool story about the Undertaker. And I don't know if not the Undertaker, the Ultimate Warrior, if you guys have never heard this. I heard Bobby the Brain Heenan tell it, so it was the most hilarious thing I ever heard. So back in the day, Andre the Giant and Ultimate Warrior were working a series together in live events.
Oh, wow.
And every night, Ultimate Warrior would hit the ring, and then he'd do the ropes, and he's just flying. He's flying back and forth, and Andre's like, slow down. And he just kept on, and he'd hit him real hard. And he's like, you better slow down. So after like 5 or 6 nights of this shit, Andre's had enough. So he hits the rope, flying like he always did. Andre just stuck that big Buick-sized fist out. Bam! Hit Ultimate Warrior dead in his tracks. And he said after that, he was tiptoeing to the ropes. So Andre made sure, he's like, all right, I told you to slow down. Now I'm going to make you slow down.
I actually watched the Ultimate Warrior documentary last night, actually.
The one on the network, or the old one where they shit on him, the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior?
Pretty much.
There's two. There was one when he was still on the outs with the WWE, and there's another one they just made when he was back in. The old one, when he was with the outs, they shit on him for 45 minutes. Yeah,
well, he was kind of a dick, but...
Well, yeah.
I got 3 things on Ultimate Warrior. Number 1, 2 on Ultimate, 1 on Andre. Number 1, I was at WrestleMania 30, and Ultimate Warrior gave his speech literally the night after he died. Or not the night after, the night of, when he was walking to his car, he had a heart attack and died.
No, so he did Mania, he did Raw, and then he flew back home to Phoenix, and he was walking from the airport to his car to go home, and he had the heart attack in the airport.
Oh, shit.
So he died on Tuesday night. He had the Hall of Fame on Saturday. He had WrestleMania on Sunday, Raw on Monday, where he did his big promo, and then he died the next day. If you're going to go out, I'm guessing that's a good way to go out.
Yeah, I mean, you ended up on the top.
Yeah.
And Andre, the reason why he liked people slowing down is because Andre had really good ring psychology. He knew that you didn't have to do all the moves. He made everybody slow down. Like,
That's
if
why
you
he
watch,
liked working with Jake so much.
yeah, exactly. And if you watch a lot of interviews with Hulk Hogan on Andre, because Andre kind of like helped raise Hulk Hogan, and Andre taught him how you don't have to always be doing something. It's just when you do something, it has to mean something.
It's got to count.
Exactly. And that's why Andre didn't like working with some people, because they tried to do too much, and he would always try to slow the thing down. There was one thing else I was going to say, but
Good list, Harvey.
Yeah, very good list.
Sure.
He also said Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had great chemistry. They did, because they're actually best friends.
They were actually best friends.
Before they were in WCW, they were in WWF at the time, as you probably know, Razor Ramon, Diesel. But they were part of the quote unquote clique with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Yeah. And the reason why they went to WCW, number one, WCW offered them guaranteed money and more, where WWE offered them less money, and it wasn't guaranteed. If they got hurt, they didn't get paid. So of course they jumped ship, but also, so their final match, you have to look it up on YouTube because it wasn't televised, but it was a cage match between Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and then Triple H or something like that.
So it was Diesel versus Shawn Michaels versus Shawn Madison Square Garden.
Okay, yeah, I know it was in Madison, and that's when kayfabe, so the character, kayfabe's the protection of your character.
Your heels and your faces.
Yeah, and the heels and faces used to never be seen with each other. Different hotels, different restaurants, traveling. You're never supposed to see heels and faces together, because they tried to make it as believable as possible. So anyway, that was the start of killing kayfabe. After the match was over, all four members of the clique, Razor, Diesel, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H, all got in the ring and gave a the famous name for it is the curtain call. They hugged each other. They took a bow, say thank you to the audience, because that was their last match, essentially. Diesel and Razors. And then they went to WCW and used Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Cool story. Kevin Nash actually retweeted me one time, so I'm like basically famous. So and
well, give John the coveted POB award.
Right. Oh, dude, when it happened, I couldn't stop talking about it for like a year.
Another thing about their WCW contracts, and I don't think many people have this now. Maybe some of the very top superstars like Cena or Brock Lesnar or some of the part-time guys. They had what was called favored nations. So it was written in their contract, if anybody come in after they had their contract, that they had to renegotiate their contract to make more than the person that come in after them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they were getting
sounds like something Hulk Hogan would do.
Yeah, they were getting people from Hogan had it as well. So they were getting people to come over, and they're like, ask for this much money, like get this much, so it would be more than them, so they could get more, So they were negotiating. Like when they brought in Rick Rude when he was at DX, and when Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, come over, they're like, man, come get that money, because if you get a bump, I get a bump too. They either had to match it or get more.
I miss Mr. Perfect. He was like
that's one of the reasons WCW went to the toilet.
Yeah, because everyone, especially Hulk, always wanted more money.
Mm-hmm.
So
when they first came over there, though, Eric Bischoff, man, he played that off so well, like the thing they had going on.
Yeah, he was awesome. So Tyler also said, what about Luger and Yokozuna when Luger picked up Yokozuna, tossing him on the battleship?
That was not a body slam. That was a hip toss.
Yeah, that was Yoko helping him.
Yeah.
Because Yoko, believe it or not, was not Japanese. He's from like the lineage of The Rock and all of them. Yeah, he's Samoan. So even though they're big guys,
his name
Samoan
is actually Rodney Antonov. I can't pronounce his last name. I apologize. Don't bring your Samoan behinds up crap out of me. I'm sorry.
And Tyler said Kevin Costner followed him on Twitter. So Kelly's got another one. The Diamond Stud and Oz. I remember Oz.
That was Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash was Oz in WCW before he became Diesel, and then the Diamond Stud was Scott Hall before he went to be Razor Ramon. He kind of mixed the Diamond Stud in with.
He had a mustache at that point and stuff, right?
No, that was before. That was when he was at AWA. He had the mustache.
Okay.
He looked like a gigantic village person. But but the Diamond Stud was kind of the start of his Razor character because he had the toothpick and the slick back hair, and he was with Diamond Dallas Page. That was his man.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's when we started the Diamond Stud. But yeah, that's a throwback. That was before their first. That was before their first run at WWE. Before their second run in WCW.
And then Chad's wife mentioned our favorite wrestlers. But we are going to that later. So Nikki, just keep watching.
You don't make her mad, man. I live with her.
I'm not making her mad. I'm just trying to keep as many views as possible. We gotta get our average up. So first match or first show. Well, I guess you could say first match. Or first pay-per-view in general, or first Raw, or whatever. Mine's a match, but first match that you ever saw, just ever. Hopefully it's the one that made you fall in love with wrestling, but I'm going with just first memory of watching professional wrestling. Mine just so happened to also be the one that made me fall in love with it and think, wow, this is really cool. But of course, like I was 5 or some shit like that. It was in '96, so I was 9. WWE Uncensored, 1996. The Doomsday Cage match, that 2-story stacked cage. It was the Mega Powers versus the Alliance to end Hulkamania. My dad had actually ordered it on pay-per-view, and I watched that match, and I was just fascinated because Ric Flair was in it, Hulk Hogan was in it, the Mega Powers, so obviously Macho Man too. It was a really cool out-of-the-box match. I wish they would have more matches like that were like multiple stories. I'll get to the other WCW stacked cage match where they one-upped it later, but that was my first wrestling match, and also not my favorite, but it was my first wrestling match and the one that made me really interested in pro wrestling. So, what about you guys?
My first, I don't remember the match, but I know it was '93, and I was watching Superstars. It used to come on Saturdays. But that's what kind of got me started. But it wasn't my first one, but the first big wrestling pay-per-view event that I remember watching that really got me hooked was WrestleMania 9. My dad's best friend and them had ordered it. This was back in the days of the VHS world. And he ordered it on pay-per-view, and VHS recorded it for me. Well, I got it the next day. I watched WrestleMania 9 for the next 3 weeks, just nonstop, back to back to back. That was the one where Yokozuna won the Royal Rumble and had a championship match against Bret Hart.
Yeah, where Bret Hart refused, and then Hulk Hogan came out there. And
this was just to set the tone. This was the card. So to start it off, you have Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka. Tatanka was huge back then. He was still undefeated.
Yeah.
You had Doink the Clown versus Crush.
Oh, my gosh, Doink.
Yeah. You had Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund.
That's awkward.
Mr. Perfect versus Lex Luger when Lex Luger was doing the narcissist gimmick. Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez.
Oh, okay. That's the most famous one out of that.
Yeah. The Mega Power. It was the Mega Maniacs. It was Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And this was the WrestleMania after Hogan had his Sea-Doo accident, and the Sea-Doo hit him in the face, and his eye was all jacked up.
And he had that like bruise and stuff on that.
And Brutus had a parasailing accident and broke a bunch of bones in his face for a shoot, and had this big mask on, and it was against Money Incorporated, $1 Million Man, and IRS.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the main event was Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. Yokozuna wins. Bret gets hit in the face with salt. He gets rolled up. 1, 2, 3.
Won by Mr.
Fuji.
Fuji, yeah.
Mr. Fuji-san. But then he challenges Hogan like 30 seconds after he wins the belt, and then Hogan was getting held back by Yokozuna and was going to get the salt thrown in his eyes. He ducks. Yokozuna gets it. He clotheslines him, gets him knocked down. Leg drop. 1, 2, 3. Hogan's the champ.
That was at Mania.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was at Mania '93. It was at Caesar's Palace. It was I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Open air arena, and that's the one. Cool, man.
Yeah, that's the one. Taker came out like on a pedestal with ravens on it and shit like that.
He had a chariot with a vulture.
And that's what it was.
Guys,
for those of y'all that are watching for the first time, I generally remember, but my memory's terrible, so I like kind of get it right. Chad's got to correct me.
WrestleMania 9, I can tell you every detail and every. It was the first time I ever seen Macho Man Randy Savage on commentary, and it was the very first. Yeah, that was Jim Ross's very first pay-per-view.
Nice.
So commentary was Randy Savage, Jim Ross, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. One of the best commentary that I've ever heard. Just not because it was the first one, but if you go back and look at them, that was a great commentary. And you had Gorilla Monsoon was the host.
Yeah. And for those of y'all that don't know, the area where the wrestlers, because Gorilla Monsoon meant so much to that company, I believe after he died or maybe even before he died, that waiting area right behind the curtain before their music goes off and they go out is actually called the Gorilla or the Gorilla Room. That's usually where Gorilla Monsoon would like talk them up or like give them last minute like pointers or kind of like produce from back there before and after he was a commentator.
Yeah. Not only Gorilla was he one of the better wrestlers back in his day.
Yeah.
But Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan, in my opinion, was the best commentary team ever. They played so well off of each other.
I mean, Jerry and JR were really good as well, but yeah, Bobby made that commentary team. He was
and no offense to JR, but if you listen to him now without Jerry the King Lawler to play off of,
yeah, it's kind of boring.
It's not the same. It's just kind of dull.
Yeah.
He had Jerry the King. Jerry the King was the second age Bobby the Brain, the real snarky, smart ass heel. Yeah. And I loved Heenan. He was the greatest.
So what about you, Drew? I keep you're like backwards to me. There you go.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the first matches I ever saw, it was my older brother actually showed me the match, was Hogan versus Savage at WrestleMania 5 after they kind of fell out.
Yeah. The Mega Powers broke up.
The explosion of the Mega Powers.
Yeah, he got a little too friendly with
Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth. So
I remember that.
Yeah, so that was always one of my favorites.
There, buddy, I'm gonna have to smash in your face now.
Yeah, good choice, Drew. That
was a very good one.
Yeah, good choice. All right, so let's go a little bit more with the questions. So Kelly said his match is Tito Santana versus Greg Valentine around in the 80s.
Kelly, you're old, but yeah, that would be a good match.
uh,
Hey, quick story, since you were talking about Kevin Nash retweeting you. Me and my wife went to eat Kabuto's 2 years ago, and Greg the Hammer Valentine sat right across from me.
oh my gosh.
I had sushi with the hammer.
Nice. Tyler, Tyler's got, he remember watching Jack Solid, Jim Duggan, and the Bushwhackers. Those were interesting characters for sure. Both were very interesting. Yeah, and he's Mean Gene Okerlund.
I used to love the Bushwhackers. They were hilarious.
Well, I guess he mentioned Mean Gene as well. Mean Gene wasn't a wrestler, but I guess we can go favorite like backstage personalities in a little bit.
Since we're in the COVID age now, how do you think the Bushwhackers gimmick would go over them out there licking people?
I think it would go better than Retribution.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Right, you either get licked in the face by the Bushwhackers during the COVID area, or you have to watch Retribution. Come on. Just go ahead right here.
I honestly feel like we could go out there right now and do better than Retribution.
And then it's Mustafa, not Mustafa. Get that right. And then he does, what's this? Stop. Is it hammer time? Tatanka was the man.
And you love Doink, but I don't know if you knew this, Tyler, but there were several people that played Doink over the years.
There was 3. The original was Matt Bourne.
Yeah. And then commentary.
Tatanka, sorry.
I might be wrong, but I don't think Mean Gene ever did commentary. He was more of like the interviewer.
He was the interview guy backstage.
Yeah.
Tomato. But Tatanka actually means buffalo in Lakota Sioux. Look at that. Fun fact for the day.
Wow. You're making me feel dumb. Bushwhackers were the sheep herders when they were very hardcore.
Yes, they were. When they were in New Zealand, they were the sheep herders.
Chad, how much wrestling do you know? Holy crap. I thought I knew a lot.
I told you, dude. I told you. This right here, this kind of podcast is my wheelhouse.
I mean, I know a lot, but dang, you and Kelly know a lot. Kelly might have to be our 4th.
I'm telling you, dude, he's
every week. Kelly, I want
to for sure.
Kelly, I want to meet you and just talk wrestling with you all day.
Dude, he's from the Bay Area, so he remembers old school wrestling from the Cow Palace.
Oh wow.
He's like a vault of knowledge.
Your wife directed you, Chad.
The big beast.
Hey, whatever, big beast, buffalo, same difference. You have the power of Google right now. It's all up here for me.
You could argue that buffalo is a big beast. So anyway. All right. So now
she's Googling it. I know you're upstairs Googling it, but mine comes from the vault up here.
So excuse me. I'm old. I'm not used to being up this late. So we're gonna move on to favorite matches.
Bad part is he's an hour behind us.
I know, right? Well, it's 9:24. Yeah, that's true. So we're moving on to, and this might be the biggest subject, the match or matches that made you fall in love with wrestling to where you were like, I'm probably gonna watch this until the wheels fall off. So mine, I have like 4, but I'm going to explain a little bit about them. So it might be a little winded, so it's okay if y'all's are as well. But first one I got, no particular order. Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, for the reason being that they were both great technical wrestlers in the ring. They told one of the best stories of all time without saying a word. And then, of course, my favorite part, and it's an infamous image that you can find anywhere. It was an I Quit match, I believe. And Stone Cold established himself that night as the toughest SOB in wrestling because Bret Hart put him in a sharpshooter in the middle of the ring and Stone Cold had blood. He had they call it the Crimson Mask, and he literally had the Crimson Mask. His whole face was covered in blood to the point it was dripping into a pool on the ring. And Bret Hart wrenched that sharpshooter in about as hard as I've ever seen him do it. And Stone Cold was in agony. You could see in his face, he was yelling, veins popping out, face dripping with blood, and he never said "I quit." He passed out before he said "I quit," and that established the Stone Cold that you saw today. Plus, on top of that, this is tied. Stone Cold. No, wait. I'm gonna save that for my best promos. Anyway, y'all, I probably gave it away to y'all that already know. So my second one is again a tie, but it's all basically the same thing. All the Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches. They're all fantastic. They all had their different storylines and their different things where it was the streak versus the career. It was heaven versus hell with the white and black attire, and then whatever the other one was. And then the other one, I got two more, I promise. The other one was when they tried to outdo the Doomsday Cage match, the two-story one, with the triple cage match in 2000. The first cage was called the Cage Heat. Second cage was called the Hardcore Hell cage. You both had to ascend a ladder, like a chain ladder or whatever, to get to the next level. And it had just about every big wrestler you can think of at that time in WCW. The cast itself was insane. And the third cage was the weapons room, and to get into it, you needed a bolt cutter to cut your way into the weapons room, and then you got to use kendo sticks and all that shit. That was one of the craziest matches I ever seen. And then obviously, which I'm sure is on all of y'all's list, the biggest match I would say that made me fall in love with wrestling more than anything, any other match in the world, was King of the Ring 1998, Kane versus Mankind, Hell in the Cell.
Yeah.
The reason why that match was fantastic, not only because obviously Mankind got slammed twice, one through a table off the top and then one through the top onto the ring. But Undertaker wrestled that entire match with a broken ankle, and got through the entire thing with a broken ankle. Second thing was, Mankind, if you notice, when they do a close-up and he's smiling after he falls into the ring, you can actually see his tooth sticking through his bottom lip. And then my third favorite thing about that was Jerry Lawler and JR, their reaction after Mankind got thrown off onto the table, and they didn't know if that was real, if it was they knew it was like scripted, but they didn't know if Mankind, because he almost missed the table. They didn't know if there was something wrong with them or what, but they were trying to be professional. And I remember most of the commentary, but the thing that will always stick out in my mind the most is when he fell, Jerry was like, "Oh, he's dead." Like, just literally.
Oh my God, they killed him.
Yeah, like that was it. And in one of Taker's documentaries, like, he was so dedicated to kayfabe, it was ridiculous, but he didn't know what to do at that point, and he wanted to stay in kayfabe, and they kept like raising the cage so everyone could get in to check on Mick, and they forgot to let Taker get down, so Taker was just standing on top of the cage that had been raised so high he couldn't get down for like a good few minutes, and he was like, I didn't know what to do, so I just stood there. And then eventually he jumped down into the ring through the opening in the top of the cage. Again, his ankle was broken, so he had to try to land on 1.5 ankles while he was dropping like 20 foot onto the ring. Yeah, so those are my matches. So sorry, it got a little long.
Oh no. All right, Drew, what you got?
Well, of course, you just mentioned the Mankind the match, the Hell in a Cell match. That's always one of my favorite. But I mean, I got to go back to the Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan. That was the first match. That's what made me fall in love with wrestling. Both of those, like, I mean, they were both icons. Like, they're, everybody, the two like biggest personalities at the time, really. Like you said earlier, Hulk was always, doing that, and then of course you see Macho Man everywhere. Yeah, doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So both of those for sure, and man, there's so many good ones, but yeah, that's
So for
that's
me,
all I can think of right
I'm
now.
going to go off. I'm not going to repeat anything that's said because all those are great matches and are probably in my top 10. But I got 3 here. My first one, and everybody should agree with me if you've seen this match. I mentioned before how I used to go and rent the tapes of all the older, wrestling. So I'd sit and watch those all the time. So Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat Wrestling.
Oh my God. That and Ric Flair versus Steamboat. Those two.
Yeah.
Those
Flair
two
versus Steamboat was always good, but Macho Man versus Steamboat WrestleMania 3 after the week before or 2 weeks before, Macho Man kayfabe busted his throat with the ring bell, and he comes back and fights him at Mania. It was just a great story of Ricky Steamboat coming back and being triumphant and becoming the IC champion. So that was number 1. Number 2, like I said, I went back. This was before I was even born, but I have watched the match 1,000 times. Dusty Rhodes versus Ric Flair at Starrcade 85. That was a match. So everybody was wanting Dusty to get the belt. It looked like he had him, and this was when Arn Anderson was face and was friends with Dusty. Arn Anderson turns his back on Dusty, wins by disqualification, but Flair keeps the belt. And then this was probably more, I know you guys have seen this, but Sting versus Hogan at Starrcade 97.
I was literally thinking that.
Back as the Crow character.
I was literally thinking that when you mentioned the first Starrcade. I was like, yeah, I remember also Hogan versus Sting being a very good one.
That was I mean, they built that thing up for over a year. For 18 months. He didn't talk. He didn't. He barely said. He didn't say anything. He was standing up in the rafters. He pointed his bat for 18 months, and they built that match just off of, oh my God, what's he going to do to Hogan? Is he going to kill him? He hasn't even said anything.
Yeah.
But that's when you know you can tell a story. Is all you got to do is stand there and then let Hogan do his thing, and Sting just has that presence. They're like, oh my God. That's why that was their best-selling pay-per-view, because they didn't even have to say anything to tell a story. The story was already there.
Yeah. So
that was one of the greatest. Now, I know the finish was all screwed up, but the hype to that match, and, Bret, the whole finish with Bret Hart and all that crap, I didn't really like it, but the hype to that match was great. I think that was the epitome of telling a story without having to say anything. So those are my 3. I have many more, but those are the 3 that, some hadn't been said, and I could go and talk about my favorite matches for days, like Taker and Michaels.
Mm-hmm. What was your? It's kind of an impromptu question.
Go ahead.
And I won't go first this time because I forgot which one I was debating between 2 of them, and I forgot the first one. Most shocking moment in wrestling, real or kayfabe?
Hogan turning heel.
Okay. What about you, Drew?
I'll let you go first on that one. I'm still.
Dude, I'm telling
thinking
you,
on that
Hogan
one.
turning heel and creating the NWO shook me to my core.
Yeah.
I was red and yellow through and through, and I'm like, oh man, that hurt me until I became an NWO fan, and I was like, this is cool.
Mine would have to be I wish I'd remembered the first one. I'll probably remember before the show is over. But one equally as shocking to me was Owen Hart dying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty shocking.
I was watching that pay-per-view.
I was too. I was watching that. I was gonna say I was watching that, and that
was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's why you can never tell me wrestling's fake. It's not fake. It's scripted, but it's not fake.
Yeah, you can't fake falling from the rafters and breaking your neck and dying in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know, man. Those are both good ones.
I'll volunteer you one if you can't think of one off the top. If you're debating between a bunch of different ones.
Yeah,
the WrestleMania where Hulk Hogan got screwed when Earl Hebner ended up being a twin.
Yeah. His brother came out.
Yeah.
I've got another one for you.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, when Eddie died.
Yeah.
But then, and this one's not major. Like, it wasn't super shocking, but it was shocking at the time. Lex Luger showing up on Nitro.
Yeah.
Because he was huge. The Lex Express, the All-American, red, white, and blue. And then all of a sudden, he's on WCW. What happened?
I guess the money, because they handpicked him to replace Hogan.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is
before that.
They handpicked him to replace Hogan. He just couldn't follow through with it.
Yeah.
But,
so greatest promo of all time.
Drew, you go first.
Well, I don't know if it's the greatest, but we talked about it before we came on air.
Don't pick I'll kill you.
Do what?
I said, don't pick mine or I'll kill you.
No, man. No, I just lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Chad. Well, remember what I was going to say.
I'm going old school again. Dusty Rhodes Hard Times promo. That's one of the greatest promos ever. Huh?
The son of the plumber?
No, it was this Hard Times promo when I think they broke Dusty's leg in the cage, and he was talking about how he put hard times on Dusty Rhodes' family, but hard times is when the textile workers is out of work, baby. I'm coming for you, daddy.
Oh, my shocking moment that I was going to say. I remembered it. Most shocking moment for me, even though I wasn't, either I was alive and I wasn't watching wrestling. Anyway, most shocking moment for me was Shawn Michaels super kicking Marty Jannetty through the glass when they broke up.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking.
Okay. Wait, hold on. We got a request for you.
I don't know the whole promo. I'd have to have it written out in front of me, but hard times is when the textile workers are out of work, baby. And you've been working at your job for 25 years, and just to learn you've been replaced by a machine, and they give you a watch and kick you in the butt and say, good luck.
I'm going to wait to drink this till you're done, because I literally almost
I'm done. Go ahead.
That almost came out of my nose right there.
No, what I was going to say earlier was when Superstar Billy Graham was talking about where he was too sweet to be sour,
which he stole. From
yeah, which he did steal, but it was just the way he was saying it was pretty cool.
Like a monkey, baby.
All right, so my favorite promo of all time, and I already told y'all this before we got on the air, was Chris Jericho's list of 1,004 holds against Dean Malenko, and as Chad pointed out earlier, before we got on the air, like half of them, that's an exaggeration,
Bar.
but like half of them was arm bar.
After every like third or fourth move, he'd say arm bar again.
Yeah, but for those of y'all that don't know, back in the day, Dean Malenko used to be known as Man of 1,000 Holds, and damn it, I'd believe it because he did so many different type of holds when he was wrestling. So that was Chris Jericho has had a lot of famous promos over the years, but that was probably my favorite because that promo lasted the longest of probably all of his promos.
And then he had that. The list looked like one of those CVS receipts that you get. You go in for a pack of gum and get a 6-foot receipt.
Yeah, it was like a wedding dress. It like trailed 10 feet behind him. And that one was hilarious. That was my favorite promo. That and when I can't remember his name, but he got interviewed in the hallway backstage, and the dude, like a reporter, and he asked him if wrestling was fake, and he slapped the shit out of him so much he actually went unconscious. And he was like, "That feel fake to you?" And he got in trouble or whatever.
Well, Vince McMahon fired him after that.
Yeah. He's on the dark side of the ring, that wrestler, and they talk about that thing.
I
also,
think his name's Dave something.
Yeah, and then also, it's not a promo, but a shocking moment is when Hulk Hogan was on a talk show with Mr. T promoting their WrestleMania. Oh. He literally choked the guy out unconscious to where he dropped him, and the dude fell face first.
He smacked his head. He cracked his head.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. All right.
Dr. D. David Schultz. David Schultz. I knew it was David something.
Yeah. He's on the dark. If you guys haven't watched it's the ring, Dark Side of the Ring or Dark Side of the Ring?
Dark Side of the Ring, yes.
All right. If you guys have Hulu out there, number one, you get. Anyway, I'm not promoting Hulu. They don't pay me.
Hey, y'all gotta pay us first.
Yeah. But go on Hulu, look up Dark Side of the Ring. There's 3 seasons. They're making a 4th. And that Dr. D is on there, and you get to see what I'm talking about. But that show is so fantastic. It's an amazing show if you want to learn cool stuff about wrestling. There's also After Dark version. Yeah. So, like, they do interviews after the show. They have, like, their own separate show. Anyway, it's a fantastic show. If you like wrestling and want to learn about it, I would highly recommend watching it. Okay, so the next thing, and I only got 2 other things written down, but we can keep going if y'all can think of other things. So, favorite current wrestler, not wrestler that's maybe sidelined because of an injury, or not a manager or valet, but an actual active wrestler, male or female. Who is your favorite right now out of any promotion, not just WWE?
Seth Rollins.
You got Seth Rollins? Mine is, of course, my name is Drew McIntyre, so got to go with Drew McIntyre.
All right, follow-up question. Why yours, Chad? Why Rollins?
He's got an old school feel to him. He reminds me of the wrestlers of the past that I grew up on. I feel like he puts the work in.
Yeah, definitely.
He respects the business.
Mm-hmm.
He has a wrestling school in Davenport.
He does the black and brave.
Black and Brave. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just really respect how he respects the business and how he takes it seriously. And if you watch his 24 on the network, it shows you how hard he works. He has a crazy schedule. He does it for the love of the fans, and he takes being champion very seriously. He doesn't take it lightly. Oh, they gave me this. no, I deserve to be the face of the company.
Yeah.
And I just like how he works. There's not many. The only thing is, I wish they'd get rid of the Messiah character right now.
Yeah, I hate it. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I don't mind if he's a heel, but get rid of this one. But I have to say, Seth Rollins is my current favorite wrestler.
Yeah, and in that documentary you were talking about, he was supposed to win the WWE Heavyweight Championship before the WrestleMania that he won it at the year after when he cashed in.
Mm-hmm.
But he tore his ACL or whatever. And you're right, it shows his work ethic, and he worked his ass off to win that next year.
Close second, Finn Balor.
Okay. If we're doing two, then I definitely got.
I have to, because I have to give Finn Balor his props, man.
Dude, what? Okay, so a separate side subject. What is it with Finn Balor, and every time he wins a major championship, he gets hurt? First time it was
he's snake bitten, dude.
Right?
Snake bitten.
He was the first Universal Champion, and then literally the next day,
the next night on Raw,
he had to forfeit because he tore his labrum. And then this NXT championship, he broke his jaw to the point where he had to have it wired shut, so he had to give up his NXT championship as well. So
has he officially given it up now?
Actually, I don't know for sure if he's giving it up, but
they were going to give him until at least Takeover.
Yeah.
And see if he can get healed up, but then they were going to have to strip him. The crazy thing that sucked about that, getting on another tangent, but Kane Cross had that same thing. He was the last one to win the championship. That was the whole reason they had the tournament.
Yeah.
I think the NXT championship is snake bitten.
Yeah.
All right, y'all continue on. I have to go visit the facilities since we're going to be doing this for a long time.
Chad's old. He's got to get his prostate checked. So same question to you, Drew. What about Drew? What about Drew McIntyre? Other than you're semi-related because he's Scottish and you're Irish.
Just his story. Just watching his documentary on the network and seeing what he came from and how hard he worked to get to where he was, and then to basically have it all taken away and get it back. I mean, it just it shows you how passionate he is about it, and every time he goes out there, you can expect that it's going to be a match that you can't turn away from. So.
Yeah, he's definitely got that drive and that hunger because he lost it for a while. I mean, and his mom died, and he overcame a lot of adversity, and he even admitted that he wasn't ready for that big of a spotlight at that point, and he took it for granted. And 3MB killed him. But thankfully, the indie circuit is as big as it is now. And if you're good in the indies, eventually, excuse me. Sorry, that was rude. But the indies eventually, they're big enough now where if you do good, word spreads. So I'm glad he got a second chance. I'm glad they had NXT the way it's been, bigger brand. So he got to ease back into it. But yeah, I like your choice too with Drew McIntyre. But,
hey, if anybody wants to sponsor us and you own a catheter company, I'm game.
Chat is open to all testers of catheters. So
if I was going to do a second one, most people don't really, I guess, we don't really like him at the moment because him and Drew McIntyre are going at it. But Randy Orton, I mean, he's been doing it for years.
John, what did you say?
He is a legend for sure.
Nothing yet. What's your favorite? This might be a little bit harder. What's your favorite type of Randy Orton? The Randy Orton against Triple H, where he was basically sexually assaulting Stephanie, and Triple H whipped his ass in his house. The Legend Killer, the Evolution Randy Orton, the one he is now, currently, the Viper, or I feel like I'm missing a different one too. Anyway,
what would you classify the one where he had the feud with Taker?
I don't know.
That was he was still in the Legend Killer.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would
Yeah.
consider it kind of a Legend Killer thing. But.
Yeah, I would have to say it'd be between the Legend Killer and probably now. I like him just the way he is now too.
I like his character now. He's not.
Yeah.
He plays that not afraid of anything. Like when he put that off against the Fiend the other night, that was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that. So mine, it's the time. Well,
wake up, old man. You talking about me being old?
I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. That's the second time I've done that. I'm so embarrassed. So my favorite characters, since we've all done two, is the Fiend. I'm a really big fan of the Fiend. It's the character that I always wanted for him. He's his own, like he resembles Undertaker, but at the same time, he's his own person. He's the type of person that has great promos. He's got great vignettes. He's got amazing charisma.
He's different.
He's different. He's got that Andre the Giant, Undertaker mentality where slow is better. You can tell a better story. He's all around awesome. Now, granted, he's not going to do any crazy type of moves, but his moves are brutal. And they're just.
Yeah, they mean something when you do it.
Yeah, they're
like
fantastic.
We talked about earlier, Andre, if you're going to do minimal things, make sure everything counts, and that's what he's doing.
And it's all in the details too. Like when he does the mandible claw, when the camera's up close, you can hear him like squeal and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then my second favorite, well, not second favorite, but my other favorite is Adam Cole, baby. I love Adam Cole. He's great at promos. He's a phenomenal wrestler. He's great on the mic without any effort. He doesn't give classic like cheesy over the top promos. Like he's just so comfortable. He just talks. And his thing with Pat McAfee, if you guys haven't seen it, YouTube Adam Cole on the Pat McAfee show. It was a work. It was all a work. It wasn't a shoot or anything, because as we know now, McAfee, started his own stable in NXT. Yeah, exactly, against Undisputed Era. But Adam Cole is a phenomenal wrestler. I love his finisher. I love Seth Rollins' curb stop finisher.
Yeah, I'm so glad they brought that back.
I love the Claymore kick. I'm a big finisher person. Like, you can be great in the ring, but if you don't have a good promo or a good finisher, I'm not a big fan.
That's why Bob actually tanked.
Yeah, he don't bring that up. Bobby Lashley is the worst spear ever. He flips while he's doing it.
Just so we don't get roasted, we need to mention at least AJ Styles.
Yeah, but he's like a given, though.
I know, but if you don't mind, can I lead this into a next question?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so who is the first wrestler you remember seeing live?
Live?
Mm-hmm. In person. It could be at a banquet hall, an armory, like a name that you've seen on TV before, but who's the first one you've seen live?
The first one that I remember, my dad said, okay, so my dad, for those of you that don't know, was a police officer for almost 30 years in Orlando back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Almost into the 90s, something like that. Anyways, he worked off-duty security at where the Magic used to play in their old stadium. Hulk Hogan was there, and my dad had to work backstage. And he met Hulk Hogan, and I was there, and I met him. But I don't remember that, so I don't count it. The first memory I have is I forgot the entire card, but I know DDP was there. And as he was walking back through the guardrail trail to the back room, my dad picked me up and stretched me over the guardrail. And I went to high five him, but he didn't see me. And I touched his elbow pad, and I didn't wash my hands for literally a week. Like I put a trash bag over it, legit, and taped it. Like for a week, I wouldn't wash my hands. So that's my first memory.
What about you, Drew?
I think actually the first show I ever went to, I was with John.
And
John and Tina.
Oh my God! Do you remember the story? What she tried to do? Tell the story.
I'll let you tell the story because I don't remember it completely. But
all right.
I just remember.
I
remember seeing Kane there.
It was SmackDown.
Yeah, and there was I think there was The Rock wasn't supposed to be there or something, and then he ended up. Triple H was supposed to fight somebody, and then The Rock come out, and of course he did all his spiel and talking, and the whole place went absolutely freaking nuts when his music hit. I remember that.
He loves The Rock like obsessively. Obsessively.
And Tina, that was always a good time.
Oh my gosh! So The Rock was getting his ass kicked because he was a face. Obviously, because you know how faces work. They get beat down most of the match. They have their comeback, and then they win. So The Rock was getting his ass beat, and my Aunt Tina she legit loves The Rock. So she started taking her earrings off.
She was ready to go.
And then she took one of her shoes off, and she literally got up and was tried to walk down the steps. And my mom grabbed her and said, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Nobody's going to mess with my man like that." Like she was literally about to go to the ring and beat up Triple H with a shoe. Yeah, and that's the night. Okay, so we'll get to that story too now that Drew mentioned it. He brought it up. That the night that I think that was the night, I believe. No, it was the WCW night. When I touched DDP's elbow pad, I got a Sting mask, but it was the Wolfpack Sting, so it was red and black. I put the mask on because I had to. My rule was every time I came home at night, if my parents were sleeping, I had to tell them I was home. So I got the bright idea. Again, my dad was a cop for about 30 years, so obviously he sleeps with a gun. So what happened was I decided it'd be funny, and granted I was like 13 or something like that, so I was still stupid. I'm still stupid now, but I was like really stupid back then. So I decided it would be a cool idea and super funny if I put the mask on and opened the door to tell them I was home. Not only did I just open the door to tell them I was home, I had the mask on. I opened the door and stood in the middle of their room and stared at them. And my dad saw me out of the corner of his eye, and he grabbed his gun and literally pointed it at me. Thankfully, he didn't shoot first, ask questions later. I took the mask off and like fell to my knees. I was like, "Dad, it's me, it's me." I started like crying and stuff.
And I can hear him now, John, you dumbass.
Yeah, he was like, I almost shot you. He was like, I was so close to shooting you. Anyway, so that's the famous story. You'll probably hear it about 25 more times. But.
So,
Kelly's
my first show, Cow Palace main event was Hogan. Oh man,
That was
awesome.
So mine was a little square dance hall in Scottsville, Kentucky. My grandmother took me. And listen to this lineup. So in the main event, the match before the main event, Wildcat Chris Harris was in it. The main event was beautiful AJ Styles versus James Storm.
Nice.
That was the very first live event I ever went to. It was in a square dance hall with like 40 people. And my grandmother was just laughing her butt off at these guys the entire time. But that was my first time I ever seen AJ Styles. And he was a skinny little kid. And when he used to wear his wrestling shorts.
They still do the Styles
top rope. And
they still do the Styles Clash back then?
I don't remember. I was just so enamored that I wasn't even paying attention. But I remember because I had seen him do a show for TNA. Or no, this was before TNA. This was when he was in WCW as a tag team. And this was after I think this was 2000, after WCW folded, and they were just doing these little indie shows. So that was the first. That wasn't my first live event, but that was my first one that I remember seeing, people that I had seen before. So it was really cool.
What about you, Drew? Did you already say?
Yeah, already.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was with me. Yeah, Antina. So my last question before I open up to the audience and to you guys to ask any questions. So a pop, for those that you don't know, is when the crowd goes crazy and it goes from regular sound to deafening cheers, claps, yells, in a positive way. So usually the biggest pops are relegated to like finishers, like good finishers, good 3 counts that people wanted to win. But the biggest pops of all time usually come from wrestlers that have been hurt or wrestlers that they just signed from another label and they make their return or they make their first appearance. Their first return in a long time or their first appearance in general, like when Chris Jericho made his first appearance when he jumped from WCW and he cut that promo on Stephanie's boobs.
They were doing the Y2J thing for like months before.
Yeah, they built it up forever. That's not my pick though, but just as an incident or as a.
So, are we talking about loudest pops, or were we marked out the most?
Yeah, the one you were marked out the most, the one you were the most excited about, that like you went crazy over, which I'm sure the crowd went crazy too.
I'm going to go first just because it's fresh on my mind. And this has been recently, but this is the one that I thought I would never see, never thought it would happen. Sting showing up at Survivor Series.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I never thought that was going to happen.
I marked out too. Yeah, I marked out too.
Never thought that was going to happen.
Ever. The franchise. They called him the franchise for the reason. For a reason.
I thought he was going to be, he went to TNA for that long run, and I thought he was going to retire. But when he showed up on WWE TV, I was a 5-year-old kid again.
Let's do 3. So you get 2 more honorable mentions.
Okay. Probably where Hogan won the title at WrestleMania 9. That's kind of an honorable mention. But then another one was when Diesel came back to the Royal Rumble.
Oh yeah. That was fantastic. As soon as you heard that truck, yeah.
Dude, when you heard that Diesel horn go off, people lost their shit.
What about Dolph Ziggler's cheerleading team at the Royal Rumble when they came back?
Oh, yeah. When when the Spirit Squad showed
Spirit
up.
Squad, yeah. Anyway, what about you, Drew? You get 3.
Well, for one, what we just talked about at SmackDown when Rock was getting the crap beat out of him, and Aunt Tina was fixing to go solve it for him. He actually came back and won that match.
Yeah.
And when he hit the people's elbow, like it was, or even people's elbow and the rock bottom, both. But
Yeah.
man, I thought
That
it went
place always
nuts.
go off. Yeah.
I thought it went nuts when he came out. Like when he hit the rock bottom and the people's elbow, like it was just insane. And I had my Rock shirt on. Like I was a Rock guy at the time, so it was just for me as a kid, like it was just like it was a dream come true. As far as two honorable mentions.
Yeah, 2 honorable mentions.
Oh man. If you got yours, go ahead, and I'll come back to mine.
Okay.
I'll volunteer you one. When Jake the Snake returned on Raw, when they were doing the vintage Raw, and he put the snake on Ambrose.
Oh yeah,
Dude, when his music hit, people went crazy.
That's true.
Because you hadn't seen Jake the Snake since '96.
Yeah. All right, Drew. I'll do my 3, and then you think of your other 2. So I'm gonna do this in order. The biggest pop that I marked out to, and the crowd marked out to, was Triple H coming back after tearing all of his quads.
Yeah,
all of them. And he even said in his documentary that he was so nervous that people wouldn't remember him. And as soon as he walked out and he heard that crowd, you could see it in his face how intense it was for him. Like, he went absolutely ballistic, and he changed his music, and it was to this day is my favorite Triple H entrance music because of the different color lights that would blend together. And that's when he first started the timing where he would get on the side of the ropes and spit the water.
Time to play the game.
Yeah. Like
that's when I became a Triple H fan. Like no lie. Like
that
was his first Motorhead entrance music.
Right. Like he had stopped being, he wasn't a face, but he also stopped being a heel. He's in that special category where you're just over, no matter what character you are, and over you guys means like the crowd loves you. So you could be a face and insult them and they'll still cheer you. So that was my favorite. The second one I marked out at was WrestleMania. The New Day came out for that 8-man tag ladder match. And there was a mystery team, and New Day came out, so we all thought New Day was going to be the last team because they didn't announce the last yet. Yeah, who, and then they stepped to the side, and the Hardy Boys music hit.
Wonderful!
And, oh my gosh, the Hardys coming back after like 10 years or some shit like that. It was ridiculous, and they won the match and the tag titles. So I marked the hell out of that one, for real. And that was also probably the longest entrance ramp in WrestleMania history.
They said they blew up before they got towards the end of the ramp.
Yeah.
And then Hardy almost fell off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And for those people, blowing up means you get absolutely exhausted. Wrestlers try to do that to new wrestlers all the time. They'll try to wrestle them so hard they blow up in the middle of the match and they can't breathe because they're so tired. Third one, I feel like it's a cop-out, but it's true. When Goldberg came back for the first time, and his famous, maybe I got one last ass kicking in me, things like that. I got one last devastating spear, one last jackhammer. It was kind of corny. Goldberg's never really been good on the mic, but just hearing that music and all that stuff.
The smoke.
Yeah, and
sparks flying on it.
Yeah, to clarify, not the first time Goldberg came back to WWE when the
You're talking about recent era.
Yeah, not the invasion timeline thing like that. It wasn't the invasion anyway. It wasn't part of that storyline, but around that time. But it's the most recent one where he like beat Brock Lesnar in 5 seconds or whatever, 7 seconds. That was something that I marked out for. It turned out that he lost a step, and that jackhammer was cringeworthy, but still, I still loved it. I marked the hell out.
That jackhammer was more like a pocket knife.
He should have just stuck with the spear.
He almost killed Undertaker with his jackhammer.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so what's your other two, Drew?
The other two actually happened the same night. I was actually on vacation in Florida, came back, and Raw just happened to be in Nashville that night. And on the way back from vacation, I went online and bought tickets. It was me, my buddy Chris Barnett, Brandon Roberts.
Shout out Chris.
Yeah. And Chris's wife was actually with us too. And Bret Hart actually showed up that night and wrestled a match. And when his music hit, like it went nuts in there too. And actually Ric Flair came out that night too, so that was pretty cool to see two guys that I grew up watching. So
I never saw Ric Flair.
Yeah, that's one person I would have loved to seen in person.
I think I want to add that to my endless list of matches.
Rick didn't even wrestle that night, but I mean, just he came out and just just cut a promo, and I mean, it was just cool. As soon as you heard that music and it was unbelievable.
So you reminded me of two things. I'm gonna have to add something to two different lists. My favorite promo, one of my other favorite promos was Ric Flair on TNA, throwing his shoes and his shirt.
Him and Jay Lethal.
Yeah, and they started doing Ric Flair contest, and they started elbow dropping people and shit.
They were doing the woo off.
Yeah, and they were like strutting, and Jay Lethal was doing elbow drops on the steel grates, and Ric Flair would be in his boxers and socks, literally prancing and doing elbow drops, and that was the funniest thing ever. And another match, this is definitely towards the top with Stone Cold Bret Hart and Taker Shawn Michaels WrestleMania matches as far as storytelling. But the retirement match of Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair at WrestleMania. That was some of the best storytelling of all time.
He was just like, come on. Like, he knew it was over. He was just like, come on.
He goes, I'm sorry. I love you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad they zoomed in at that moment. Legit, I teared up a little bit. I didn't cry, but it made my eyes a little misty when I
literally just got chills thinking about it, for real.
Yeah, I got the goose pimples.
That I love you, I'm sorry, like that made it for me. Like, I started watering up a little bit, and that super kick, Ric Flair, you could tell he wanted to go out the best possible and leave it all in the ring, because he took that super kick as stiff as fucking possible. He didn't put his hands up or nothing. He took that straight up on the chin. Anyway, that was also one of my favorite matches. I was already in love with wrestling at that point anyway, but that furthered it. So
earlier, I didn't really give a shocking moment, and I mean, I guess you could consider it a shocking moment. You just talking about Shawn Michaels, and I just talked about Bret Hart. What about when Bret Hart was supposed to leave?
Screw job.
Yeah, the Montreal screw job.
And he spit on Vince and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Funniest moments.
anything R-Truth does.
Let's keep R-Truth off limits because he's a character anyway.
Okay, when Mankind did The Rock, This Is Your Life.
Oh my gosh. And the teacher and every person they brought out, The Rock cut a promo on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
What about you, Drew?
I think it was a different time that we went. Me and you went to a wrestling match. This is when Scotty 2 Hotty and all them were pretty big. And you know how he used to like jump on the rope and he would like clap? Well, he was jumping and he missed the rope and he like just totally fell and busted his fucking face. Or effing face, sorry.
Funniest thing for me was Kurt Angle bringing that milk truck after Stone Cold brought that beer truck.
Yeah,
and
it's Milk-Mania.
That and shit.
Anything with Gilbert.
Gilbert
is freaking hilarious.
Spike Dudley. He's pretty funny.
Gosh, there was something else. I swear I need to write stuff down. I have freaking Alzheimer's maybe. Anyway, yeah, but definitely the Kurt Angle thing was one of my favorite things. That was just effing hilarious. Also, there's a backstage, like a dark moment. So after Raw or SmackDown went off the air, again, you have to YouTube it. But it was a 6-man tag or something like that. But after they went off air, Booker T, The Rock, Undertaker, and Triple H.
The Taker Rooney.
Yeah, and they all had to do the Taker. They were all trying to get Taker to do the Spinner Rooney. And Triple H even did the Spinner Rooney.
Vince McMahon came out and did it.
Yeah, Vince did it too. They were trying. Everyone even during the match, would try to get Undertaker to break, and they never did. Or they were never successful. They did make him crack a smile that night. Shit, never mind. I'm gonna stop trying because every time I think of one, I'm talking about another one, and then I end up forgetting.
Just start blurting it out, and we'll remember it for you.
Do what?
I said, just in the middle of your sentence, to talk about one. If you think of something, just blurt it out, and we'll remember it.
Well, I have a piece of paper in front of me, and start writing it down. Here it is. This is the one I knew if I thought about it long enough. I'm not gonna say it, but if you know it, you know it. The Hulk Hogan, we're coming for you. And I didn't finish the sentence, but everybody on camera after Booker T walked off was laughing their ass off. And Booker T's face after he said that was priceless.
What about Hogan at Mania calling it the Silver Dome?
I was at that's the same one I was at. That WrestleMania was full of crazy moments. It was amazing. That was my second Mania. The first Mania I went to was 27, where Undertaker and Triple H beat the shit out of each other so bad they were throwing each other through plexiglass. The one The Rock was the special host for.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stone Cold was the referee with Jack Swagger, I think, versus Michael Cole.
Yeah.
That was a different match. And also, that's the one where Miz beat John Cena for the championship. That actually happened I was on the floor. It happened 7 rows in front of me when Miz got that concussion on the other side of the barricade on the cement floor. I saw it happen, and you could see the look on his face. I was like, that dude's concussed. And then the one where Randy Orton caught Evan Bourne off that shooting star press into an RKO. the crowd went crazy when that happened. That was a big pop too. But yeah, dude, yeah, I could talk about so many stories. I know that's what we're here for. But that was awesome.
The night that I saw Bret Hart and Ric Flair, William Shatner was there too, so that was pretty cool.
No, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, y'all got anything else to add before we cut it off? It's already been an hour and 35 minutes, so I think these people are getting tired too.
No, man, this was fun though.
Yeah, this is fun. I can't wait to do next Friday. We'll come up with a topic and then we'll post it. Or actually, you know what? We might surprise you guys with what the next topic is. We're not going to do something like this. We're going to try to switch it up week to week. So it'll probably either be a documentary or an episode of Dark Side of the Ring, or something like that. Yeah, we'll keep it interesting. So tune in next Friday and see what we talk about next. And again, as always, the comments will be open for you. We love reading them. We love answering them. And again, thank you guys from all over the world that are supporting us. We really appreciate it. Yeah, you guys are literally too sweet. So let's get to that 420 follows and likes so we can start doing the mystery boxes. And then let's
bring some wrestling gear into that too.
Yeah, we already got Ric Flair boots. I actually bought me a pair today, and a pair of Mike Tyson gloves. But let's get to that 420 on likes and follows, so we can start doing those mystery boxes for you. And let's get to that 700, so we can do that one chip challenge with our three brave souls. And me laughing my ass off during it. Yeah, Drew has literally been training. He's been texting me pictures. He's eating ghost pepper breakfast burritos every morning, training his mouth. So,
dude, I feel sorry for your toilet.
I may need Drew to eat 2 chips at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know
you
about
can be like Homer you can be, I don't know if you watch The Simpsons, but you could be like Homer when he goes to the chili cook-off and he wants it super hot, so he coats his tongue in candle wax. But all right, guys. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. You've been too sweet, as Chad has already pointed out. So yeah, we will see you guys. What's today? Friday. We'll see you either Saturday or Sunday for the Sunday slate, and then, as always, back on Monday as well. So, Kelly, you're more than welcome. You've proved your knowledge.
Absolutely.
Very significant. So, you have our open invitation whenever you want to be on the show, on our Friday roundtables. Definitely let us know, and we'll have you on. So, anyways, thanks you guys, and y'all have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.